I'm joined now by Tony Bruschi, who's the host of the podcast Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Tony, good to have you on. It's not often that a defendant takes the stand, and so when they do, I pop the popcorn. What was your impression of Nicolae Mew on the stand today? Did he help himself or did he hurt himself?
Well, he was no Alec Murdaugh, but that's a good thing, I would say, in this case. I think he helped himself quite a bit. He went up there, and I'm sure his attorney said, look, even though there were some lies over here, there were some false memories, mistruths, whatever they want to call it, he went up there and he owned it. He said, yeah, I did lie about that, but here's how that went. Here's how I was feeling during that day. They really put a big emphasis on how are you feeling emotionally, not just what you remembered, because we can easily have false memories, especially about a traumatic event happening in real time as you're being attacked by a mob of angry people. But he went there and he really owned it. So I think this actually was one of the few times you see the defendant on the stand that I think actually did him some good.
Did him some favors. Sure, I get it. Trauma changes everything, right? But having memories at the time that two other people had knives is it's a bit far flung. And I guess the fact that he, hate to say, fell on the sword, but admitted, okay, that was my memory at the time and it's not my memory now. We get back to a video that shows a man surrounded by a bunch of young people who are rowdy and drunk and become very menacing. It's loud, it's confusing, and it's scary. And ultimately, I feel like it's going to come down to how the jury feels about that moment when he's shoved down into the water.
Well, with all the lies that we have seen in this case, it really kind of does come down to that video. And at the end of the day, that's what they keep referencing. Are we going to see that in the video? We look at the video and we find our answers, despite what Nicolae may have said or what one of the kids may have said. That video does not lie. And honestly, that video is as horrible as this is. Someone lost their lives. Several others were injured. That video does portray a mob of young adults attacking a man unprovoked in the middle of a river in Wisconsin, and it ended up horribly.
So here's the debate that my team had today, and we're comprised of all demographics, young, old, male, female, and we said the following. I won't say who. If I were him, I'd have done the same thing. That's what one comment was on my team. I would have been terrified, and I would have lashed out at anything and everything in front of me, fearing for my life. Someone else said, wait a minute, hold on. How do you gut those people? Like, how are you literally gutting people in just self-defense? And it's kind of a fascinating question, because I think you do keep coming back to that question. The damage seemed a heck of a lot more than just self-defense, or am I overthinking it?
No, I mean, I think it really did. But when you actually look at the video itself, you're not seeing this look like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre either. It takes a moment to even realize anyone was even stabbed until you see the blood in the water and everyone screaming and running around. So the damage was horrible. It was shocking to see what his little knife, because we did see the size of that knife, what it was able to do. I guess it's a lesson in just how powerful a small knife can be.
Right?
But
it's a Swiss Army knife. I couldn't believe it. Swiss Army knife. I mean, everybody carries those. They don't even consider them to be dangerous. Speaking of that, help me out here in this state, because so many people have said that the prosecutors in Wisconsin went way overboard in overcharging. First-degree intentional homicide, right? Like, really? I know you can formulate intent in seconds, but first-degree intentional murder and then first-degree attempted murder, is there a downward departure? Is there something else this jury can rest on other than all or nothing?
Yeah, I think there really is, because if we're to look at that first-degree intentional homicide, that's essentially saying that he was over by his friends and family, looked down the river there and said, I'm going to go murder some kids. That's not what happened. But there is a way that the judge can actually take a look at this as he gives jury instructions, and he can instruct them that they can go and convict on lesser included charges when the original charges may be a little bit too steep. And that is, I think, what's going on here. They probably should have looked at making this reckless intentional homicide, not just intentional homicide.
I think you froze. You froze, but I got the gist of what you were saying. Tony Bruschi, thank you for that. I am curious to find out if a jury's going to want something lesser or if a jury's going to feel as though I'd have done the same thing and I don't want a lesser for myself if I were in his shoes. But we'll continue to follow it. Thank you for this tonight. Really appreciate your insight.
Sure, thank you.
Tony Bruschi joining us, the host of Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.